It's the Brad and John Show.
John, will you indulge me one more time? One more time?
Absolutely.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. It is May 1st, 2025. This is the C block, the Charlie block, which we started about 7:40, and we're way late this morning. Okay. Back in the day when I did my show with Shelley Barr, and that's ultimately how you and I met, is because you were some kind of a demented person. You actually listened to us on BS show, BS.show, and on Westplex 107.1. Remember that, John? Remember back in the day?
I do. Very masochistic of me, right?
Right. Okay. I just dropped my soda on the floor. Okay. There was an incident which I talked about, and you and I have talked about this subsequently. It happened down in South County. And I'm trying to be as nice as I am about or describing this, but it involved a guy who had got a few too many brewskis in it and got mad at his dog for some reason and beat his dog to death with a hammer, okay? I'm not condoning that. I think that was absolutely positively horrible. But my point of the story was, and this was picked up by the local TV stations, for weeks people picketed in front of his house with signs. You're a terrible person. And they were mad because he was not thrown in jail and given 20 years to life for beating his dog to death, okay? And I think he ultimately got like a misdemeanor animal cruelty charge or something like that, had to pay a fine, and on he went with his life, except the people still showed up at his house, okay? Flash forward to or maybe it was earlier this week, I guess it was last week, where I don't know how this happened, but an old post from 2021 resurfaced from Facebook. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about, John?
If for Facebook people, which I am not, as I like to point out, isn't there a thing where like this today 4 years ago, and it's like a memory from years ago, right?
It could be. That's maybe how it showed back
So
up.
if you're an angry person that likes to annoy Brad Hildebrand and take things he says out of context, and you left a message for Brad Hildebrand criticizing him, you could get a message that said, 4 years ago today, you told Brad Hildebrand what's what.
Okay, now let me tell a current story, and I sent you the link. Did you by any chance watch that video?
What did you send me?
I sent I sent the group text. I don't know if you sent it. I sent a thing on. It was a link.
Angry mob targets wrong house during vigil. No, I'm on the radio right now. I do a radio show between 7 and 8, and I didn't watch it.
Okay, I believe this is in California. The story goes that a man was accused of essentially tempting cats into his backyard with food, and when the cats would show up, he would attack the cats and ultimately kill the cats, sometimes hitting them with objects, sometimes stomping on them with his boots, okay? And he was arrested, and he was charged, and he was released. Well, the only problem was a bunch of protesters, like we talked about the South County protesters, got very upset about this, and they decided they're going to give him, themselves, the protesters, a piece of their mind. So they show up at his house, and he has a big fence around his house. Looks like one of these, stockade kind of, cedar, dog-eared kind of things. And they start yelling and screaming. They got signs. And at one point in time, you see 2 or 3 women who are literally trying to knock down the fence. They're trying to push and pull to the point where they're trying to break the fence out of the ground. And at one point in time, there's a gate, and people try to sneak into the gate, and the homeowner comes and maces them, sprays them with mace in the face because of the fact that he doesn't want those people to come in and protest in his backyard. There's one problem, though, John. The problem is, you know what the problem is?
No, I don't.
They had the wrong address.
Snap. That's a pretty key piece of information.
It was not the right guy. They had the wrong house, and they're attacking some guy's house. And then the story gets even more interesting. One of the guys, they were in the right neighborhood, but the wrong house. And apparently this guy is a Mexican dude, the guy that was stomping on cats. And a neighbor who lived near this guy, not in the wrong house they targeted, who drove a similar pickup truck and looked somewhat similar because, and they didn't really say it because I think the implication was he's Mexican, and so he must be the guy. He drives an F-150, and he's Mexican. That must be the dude. He talked about the fact that he got the wrath of these same protesters, and he had to move his truck to a friend of his who lives about a half mile away and walk over to his friend's house to use his truck to go to work. And when he got back home, he would drive to his friend's house and then walk the rest of the way back to his house. Okay? Bottom line is these protesters were, shall we say, off the chain? Would that be like a good explanation?
Yeah, that's a good phrase from 1996. Yeah.
Okay. So my point is, and I say it again, and I got in an argument with someone who knows me, who saw this on my Facebook page, and it re-instigated an argument where I will say there's a hierarchy of life. And my point was the story that back down when we go through the original one in St. Louis County, which was, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, where the guy beat his dog to death with a hammer. I'm saying, where were those people when you read, and it's almost every damn week in the Post-Dispatch, you read some story of some cretin, some subhuman who beats a baby to death or shakes a baby and gives him shaken baby syndrome,
you're right.
Causes brain damage. Where are those people out in front of that guy's house protesting, child abuse, this guy's a child abuser? And the answer is nobody does that. So my point being is, why do we have, and I shouldn't say we, but why are there people out there that have, to me, a misguided hierarchy of life that pets, dogs, and cats are more important than human beings? John, I rest my case.
I agree with you, Brad, and I'm guessing their argument is that the legal system protects human life, and there's already a lot of people that care about humans, but there's not enough people that care about animals. So we need me, whoever the version of me is in this story, we need me to go out there and protest that guy in South County, because if I don't do it, nobody will.
But, see, I don't understand this. I mean, and I'll give another example. I can't remember where it was, 6 months, a year or so ago. I don't remember. One of the animal shelters, it flooded. They had a pipe. Do you remember this crazy story? They had a pipe burst.
I do, yeah.
And they went on social media, oh my God, we've got to clear out the kennels. The dogs are in two inches of water. Okay, I'm thinking to myself, 2 inches of water? Not a problem. I mean, myself, I have lived in 2 inches of water before when I had a pipe burst, but that's a whole other story. Matter of fact, in my apartment, with my single guy's days, I had Nut and Bolt, who lived above me, who refused to get a shower curtain, and about every 4 months, the ceiling in my bathroom would collapse because the water would build up on the top of the sheetrock that was the roof of my apartment, because I was on the first floor, then the second floor, and I would have this flood in my apartment, which would happen every about 4 or 5 months. And I finally said to the apartment manager, can you buy them a shower curtain? And they said, they refused to use it because the woman who lived up there doesn't like plastic shower curtains because it gives her some kind of a skin rash. So she took a shower with no shower curtain. Water went everywhere. Okay, back to my point. Okay, so this happened where they had this pipe burst, and they put out on social media, we need emergency foster homes for all these dogs. And it was like a traffic jam at this, pet shelter where people said, I'll take 3 dogs, I'll take 4. But yet, if you had a situation where you had babies born into this world and there were no foster parents, and let's say the baby was left on the firehouse steps like you see in some of the movies and things like that, do you think there would be 20 or 30 people driving up and say, oh, I'll take that baby, I'll take that baby? No. So what is wrong with humanity? Why do we care more about animals than we do about children?
Well, and the other thing is, why don't we have some folks sign up to house some illegal immigrants?
Well, that's the other. Well, we had the governor.
What if you could get both a stray dog or a stray cat and an illegal immigrant and have them both spayed or neutered?
Wasn't it the governor of New Jersey? We had the story where he says, well, I got an illegal that's living in above my garage.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Right. If you need a little bit of lawn work done or you need some kitchen work done. Okay, now, here's where the story gets interesting. So this post reemerges, and I think this was from 2021. So this post reemerges on Facebook. Now, I know you don't read Facebook, but I forgot all about this, and I actually screenshot the post, and I circled, her name is
Terry Flotron, TerryFlotron, okay? And you'll get a kick out of this.
I'm going to your Facebook page right now, so I'm going to follow along in real time here, Brad.
This is them complaining about me when Shelley and I did the show in 2021, where I complained about the fact that why is it that people care more about dogs? Why is it all these protesters show up at this guy's house in South County to protest that he beat his dog to death? And once again, I do not condone that. I'm not a hunter. I've hit many deer.
And so what did Terry Flotron say, Brad?
Terry Flotron says, I think his dad, John Hildebrand, is a longtime and much-loved top 40 STL radio personality who did station appearances at lots of nonprofit events for years. If Brad is his son, hopefully he is uneducated about dogs and not just mean. Okay, so the interesting part of this is there is no John Hildebrand, at least I do not know about. John Hildebrand is not my father. My father was Lee Hildebrand, a World War II hero, a man who spent 40 years in the Army, went in at 22 as a buck private, retired as a captain, saw combat in Europe, had 3 Bronze Stars with combat valor. John Hildebrand, I have no idea who John Hildebrand is, unless what the lady is the word conflating. Would that be a proper use? A word to use here?
Yeah, conflating is good. With who would she be conflating him with, Brad?
John and Brad are the same. Now, I know that sounds strange since you are John.
I mean, she's probably thinking of you. She's probably thinking of Brad Hildebrand and just got her names wrong. And, Brad, I love the irony of you criticizing what I can only presume is another boomer for getting names wrong, Brad.
Okay, so what's interesting was I have taken this to the next step where, and I'm an absolute positive terrible person. I will admit this. I'm an absolute positive terrible person. Where there's all these comments of me posting this, and for example, one lady says, "What did you say about dogs?" And I said that they have a rough life. Okay, so
oh, there you go, Brad. Have you thought of asking, according to AI, what John Hildebrand did for a living?
Okay, now here, let me go. Here's another guy. Here's a radio guy that I know, Forrest Mosley. He says, your dad must have been an incredible person. In the short time I knew you and we worked together, I recognized that talent in you too. So I replied back to him, John was amazing. He used to hang out with Casey Kasem, Robert W. Morgan, Rick Dees, and Waldo Zimorski, the who's who of radio back in the day. And then somebody else posts, miss all these names. I'm just not ladling up the BS. I am shoveling up the BS, and people are believing every single word of it on Facebook, John. Is it funny or what?
I don't know, Brad. I'm not one to make fun of old people like the sweet Terry Flotron. I don't know why. Have you thought of visiting her in whatever local retirement community she's living?
That is John Combest. For the attorneys that want to sue Terry Flotron, whose husband is probably an attorney, that is John Combest.
I wonder if she's related to the great Frank Flotron, who we discussed yesterday on A-Block, Brad.
I don't know. This whole thing is, what I find so fascinating about this is I have a sickness, okay? And this is my sickness. No, some people would be upset by this. I find it hilarious. I find this.
Yeah, well, it is, right? Because if you don't, sorry to interrupt, but if you don't make a joke out of it, you could drive yourself nuts trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with people.
Well, it's like the KBDZ thing. Dudes, I'm trying to help you. We are in an industry that needs some clarification. And I had this happen just the other day. Matter of fact, the attorney that I talked to about the KDHX thing, I told her about Nielsen rating radio as the top, top reach medium, beats internet, the whole bit. And she was like, really? Can you document that? I sent her like 3 different articles talking about.
Yeah. And unlike me, if you send her a link, she'll actually look into it, Brad.
The idea being is what I'm trying to do is for 52 years, this has been my life, radio. Some people would say it's been too much of my life, and they're probably right. But I hate it when I'm trying to promote our industry and people in our industry are trying to cut me down because I'm trying to help them. You know what I mean? It would be like,
yeah,
John.
Hey, I'd love to stay in chat, Brad, but there's an early screening of Casper the Unfriendly Ghost, and it's being held in Lake St. Louis. Like, apparently there's some great radio stations out there. You know, they invented the term the Westplex. So I'm going to go see Casper the Unfriendly Ghost, and hopefully there's a negative character there named Brad who talks bad about animals.